What is art? What is acceptable in society? What is unacceptable? Should we be more trusting? What is your perspective? In Ruben Östlund's 2017 film The Square, we get to take a look into the art world. Part satirical, the film has so much to say about dynamics between people, cultures, and different classes. It is littered with memorable scenes that say so much about human interaction, presentation, and how every action has a consequence. Claes Bang plays a curator called Christian of the ex-Royal Contemporary Art Museum in Stockholm. Image is everything. Appearances are everything. Art, the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. I like to think of art as some form of creative expression, but looking deeper is to apply meaning to something. For instance, is a Picasso painting good or even better because you know the name Picasso painted it and immediately you know it is meant to be worthy? Meaning has been applied to it. During an interview, Christian is asked about some information on their website, exhibition, non-exhibition.
An evening conversation that explores the dynamics of the exhibitable and the construction of publicness in the spirit of Robert Smithson's site, non-site. From non-site to site, from non-exhibition to exhibition, what is the topos of exhibition, non-exhibition in the crowded moments of mega exhibition?
Christian stutters with taking all that information on board, but eventually gives his answer.
If you place an object in a museum, does that make this object a piece of art? For instance, if we took your bag and placed it here, would that make it art?
Is the laptop you're using art? Is the chair you're sitting on? Place something in a contemporary art gallery and it could be considered art, like anything else. It isn't too different than thinking the fire extinguisher near the exit is in fact a piece of art. The museum in the movie is about to open a new exhibit. After clearing the area of an old statue that is destroyed, a clearing outside the gallery is made for the introduction of The Square, an art piece by Lola Arias. The Square is a sanctuary of trust and caring. Within it, we all share equal rights and obligations. You are asked to be one of two things. I trust people or I mistrust people. Are those the only two options? In this world, this linear formed world, there are only two. It's a rule setting, a social contract. You're either here or there, black, white, working class, middle class, rich or poor. These are the boundaries set by ourselves that take over society. I imagine they form because of our need to simplify, like wanting a political party and an alternative. Really, there are only going to be two options. Check out this Dove campaign from 2004. Just like the Square, women only have two doors in which to enter the building. Are they beautiful or average? Now, of course, there is a third option. You just don't enter the building at all. It seems man's need to simplify also results in us judging based on a very small amount of information. Would you trust your phone and wallet to be left inside a square, inside this museum? Should you trust people asking for help on the street? Can you trust other people to look after your kids? What sets Christian's story in motion is when he's scammed in broad daylight by a couple of thieves. Claiming to need help, the woman and man team take advantage of his and another man's good nature and slyly steal his phone and wallet. The film is littered with people asking for help, and we'll get more into that later. Christian prepares his speech to introduce the square to the artsy elite. He has a part that acts as if his speech isn't genuine, so he loses his notes and gives them a more authentic experience. This puts into question what is real and what is fake. During the speech, something unexpected does happen. A telephone rings.
Det er jo ikke sjovt. Når der er en telefon, der ringer.
He also uses this as a great moment to ditch his notes like he planned to. People hang on to his every word, but afterwards when the cook starts discussing the food menu, people scatter and ignore him. Until, of course, Christian is busy dealing with the scam artists. He and his assistants set a plan. The Find His Phone app shows where it is. They'll go to the building and put a letter in every door in the block of flats. En route, they're showing bravado. The band is called Justice.
Justice, og hvad er det, vi skulle have? Det er sgu da ikke noget paradoks. Hvad? Nej, men altså, det er sgu da, altså, retfærdigt, Ruben. Ja. Det er perfekt. Ja. Det er timing. Det er kraftigt med timing. Det er kraftigt med timing. Ja. Er du klar? Ja. Sker det nu? Skråb. Ja, for helvede. Det er fedt, ikke? Okay. Det er det, der kommer til at ske, når man stjæler din telefon. Ja. Så kommer kavaleriet. Så kommer vi med hammeren. Så kommer kavaleriet med hammeren, ikke? Så kommer vi med den store hammer. Så kommer retfærdighed. Ja, jo. I en Tesla.
Christian goes into the building and posts the letters while his assistant stays with the car. This reactionary act results in Christian receiving reactions himself, but ones he didn't expect. Actions have consequences. Though he does get his stuff back, his car is damaged on their swift exit, but more importantly, he is contacted by a little boy who is absolutely outraged at being called a liar. It has changed his life. He's grounded. His mother won't let him play football, and he is being punished because she thinks he's a thief.
Har jag inte rättat kryckan?
Men jag vet inte vem som har rätt.
So let's look at things deeper in the movie. For the most part, Stockholm's homeless problem is largely ignored. People on the street ask for help. The Roman beggars are a major aspect of the movie. One beggar asks for chicken ciabatta from Christian and repeats "no onion" to him. What's acceptable behavior? To ignore her? To help? To help every beggar? Christian, you could argue, does enough to help, but only enough to tell the woman to pick the onions out herself. A scene where a man with Tourette's syndrome interrupts a conversation with a famous artist puts into question how decent we all want to appear. We are all aware this man has a medical condition, but without saying anything, you know this is an annoyance. No one wants to say it, as it is a medical issue, but you can feel that it makes people uncomfortable. Just like the beggars, there is something happening in your life that you are uncomfortable with. The film has many of these situations. In another, an employee brings his baby to a staff meeting where it cries. Is it acceptable to bring a baby to work like this? Would it be acceptable to tell the man that he shouldn't bring his child with him? You are basically debating degrees of acceptability or rudeness. So, Christian gets his stuff back. This pleases him, and his reaction is to give some cash to a nearby beggar. He meets up with Anne, the journalist again, which leads to a one-night stand. Surprisingly, Anne lives with a chimpanzee. In this moment relating to art, you have to wonder, what is normal to us? What is strange to us? A chimpanzee as a pet, or putting on sex clothes to take them off 5 seconds later? After Christian and Anne have had sex comes quite possibly one of the best scenes of the movie, which has garnered some interesting reactions from people I've talked to about it. Anne asks Christian, "Did you come?" and then asks him to give her the condom. He insists he will throw it away himself, and the scene escalates with her wanting it and him wanting to hold on to it. When I polled women about this scene, they seemed to say Anne wanted the condom to see if Christian had come. But every man I asked said that Christian wanted to keep it out of fear of Anne doing something untoward with his semen. I think this relates to men being sensitive to paternity, and with Christian in particular, not wanting to take any chances in bringing up some kind of love child just in case Anne turned out to be some kind of lunatic. The art gallery is now trying to promote the square, and while the space inside the square is meant to be about trust and caring, the hip young marketing team wants something to go viral. They want controversy. They pitch an idea about a beggar, a child beggar. This idea gets laughs from the younger people who work there, but Christian okays the idea in haste because he's distracted by his own child beggar, the boy wanting an apology because he's been accused of being a thief. The video depicting a child beggar entering the square and blowing up does go viral. This shows how modern society has become. What you do to get noticed, peacocking, you must surprise, stand out. Just like any piece of artwork in the museum, you must surprise, stand out. The public reacts with outrage to the video. Christian is responsible, and in conversation talks about what art should be.
Vi kan ikke som museum lade os skræmme af udtryk, der overskrider grænser. Det kan vi ikke gøre. Vi er nødt til at være parat til at bøje og vride alle mulige tabuer, og der er ikke noget, der skal stå i vejen for ytringsfriheden. Ellers kan vi ikke arbejde. Det er min holdning, og jeg synes, at her er chancen for at stå op for det.
His boss worries they will lose sponsorship money. Shortly after, she tells Christian that they need a new photo of him. When he asks why, she says, "Because all the ones we have, you're smiling." It's all about countering any controversy to their own controversy. The idea of a man responsible for this actually smiling in a newspaper clipping paints a narrative they don't want. This reminds me of the scene in Gone Girl when Ben Affleck's character smiles for a photograph just after his wife has gone missing. It's all about the narrative. The most memorable scene in the square is the gorilla sequence. An eloquent evening meal is planned for Stockholm's elite. However, this is an art gallery and they are about to have an experience.
Welcome to the jungle. Soon you will be confronted by a wild animal. As you all know, the hunting instinct is triggered by weakness. If you show fear, the animal will sense it. If you try to escape, the animal will hunt you down. But if you remain perfectly still without moving a muscle, the animal might not notice you, and you can hide in the herd, safe in the knowledge that someone else will be the prey.
Terry Notary plays Oleg, an artist known for his gorilla interpretation. Remember, this is art. He is a gorilla. He acts like a gorilla. He plays with women's hair and tries to get a rise out of people. Recall, the people are told to show no fear, stay still. The scene escalates to such a point of a human crime. People have to react with violence to stop a man committing assault. That is true. But this is art. This is a performance piece. The gorilla is doing what a gorilla does. Should Oleg stop being a gorilla in this scene and say, "Scene," it breaks the performance. The people were instructed on what to do, but they couldn't follow the simple instruction. They didn't see a gorilla. They saw a man pretending to be a gorilla. Is this their fault? The artist's fault? We like to assign blame.
Perhaps it was the art gallery's fault. What is real? What is fake? What is acceptable? What is not acceptable?
It's all about your perspective. Anne confronts Christian in the museum. In the background, an art piece, which is essentially a stack of chairs, is erected, though moves unnervingly to the sound of them buckling and ultimately falling. It's a tense scene, and as Anne wants to press Christian on his intentions and possibly expose him, it adds even more tension to the scene.
I'm aware of them.
Okay, good. You remember that then?
Yes. Listen, that is part of it.
Yes, it's a big part of it, and it's
Yeah,
also part
but
of
a man and a woman, you know? The man is
Good.
in that woman, yeah?
And that meant something, did it not?
Absolutely.
Okay, what did it mean to you?
She talks about exploring an emotional connection with him, but you can tell Christian is checked out on that one. The most interesting thing here is him trying to maintain his dignity and appearance, whilst one could argue he has taken advantage of his position. In his world, he's single and free to do as he likes. He can have guilt-free sex. Anne sees this and purposely pushes him. She asks private questions in a public place, which again we must ask. What is acceptable and what isn't acceptable behavior? This is played with throughout the film. People want truth, but also like to control how they are perceived. Anne does push Christian enough to a point when they both start saying really truthful things to each other, which you may argue is what art should be, getting that ultimate truth.
When Christian's kids visit, they are like a wave of bother to him, fighting and slamming doors.
In fact, the slammed door seems to bother him more than his kids hitting each other.
Hvad har jeg sagt om det? Hvad?
Just like the cook earlier, in a capital letters way of saying, "You forced me to express myself this way." A raised voice to get attention has always worked, and yet one wonders why. Is it the intensity, the conviction, the people asking softly, "Would you like to save a life?" They get ignored, but a man screaming gets noticed. Out of politeness? Fear? Something else? Christian does try and admits his wrongs to his daughter, which you must say is admirable. The boy tracks Christian back to his apartment. He will not give up.
Kan I ikke bare lige gå op til lejligheden? Jeg kommer lige om 2 minutter, ikke? I venter bare lige udenfor. Hvad foregår der her?
Du har lagt dig på en brevlåda. Nu mina föräldrar tror att jag är tjuv.
Hvad laver du inde i min opgang? Du skal slet ikke være her.
Jag ska visst vara. Du ska be om ursäkt sen jag går.
Prøv at høre her. Du skal ikke være her. Det skal du altså ikke. Det er for mærkeligt. Det er simpelthen for underligt, at du er herinde. Du skal gå. Ikke også?
Ja, men stanna.
Nej.
Jo,
Nej.
stanna snart.
The boy is following his nature just like anyone else, like the chimp, the gorilla, the people who want to protect their image. The boy's instincts are to get an apology, the gorilla to be a gorilla, and so on. The scene escalates, once more, to a point of violence. The boy ends up falling, or being pushed down the stairs, depending how you look at it. Something had to give, and like anything else, it did. The boy begs for help, like the beggars, and it goes on. And it goes on. And on. Christian looks on the stairs. Where's the boy? Unsure if he's below, above, or imagining it. Yet he doesn't leave the comfort of his vantage point to actually check. Just like the man with Tourette's, the beggars on the street, the viral video. Try as you might, you cannot ignore things if you can hear them or see them. And then, something had to give once more. Christian's guilt gets the better of him. Him so keen on his image, for him wanting to be a good person or appear to be a good person, he looks for the boy's phone number and address by going through the trash, which is one of the most disgusting places to be. Whereas a day or two ago, none of this was trash. It was something we owned. Now it is dirty, discarded. Like an old statue no one cares about anymore. His jacket even becomes trash when he takes it off. Christian finds the boy's address and phone number. He calls to no response. Perhaps at this moment he is relieved. The interaction, the loss of power, a man who can't say sorry or admit he's wrong. No, he gets to record a video message instead. This can be controlled. It can't be questioned. It's final. Though he is very candid.
Altså her bagefter, så tænker jeg, at det jeg burde have gjort, det var, at jeg burde være gået ind i jeres opgang, og så burde jeg bare lige have banket på, og lige have stillet et simpelt spørgsmål, men det faldt mig altså ikke ind, fordi det... Jeg skal være ærlig og sige, det turde jeg ikke, fordi jeg er nok en lille smule bange for den slags mennesker, som bor eller den slags mennesker, jeg tror, der bor i jeres opgang, og der...
Prejudice and preconceptions. Christian tries to see why that is and justifies his character that he is part of a bigger problem. As in, you can't only blame me for being me. Everyone has preconceptions, like the assistant being questioned over the car and summing up Christian as simply a player, or people expecting a performance of a gorilla to stop when the gorilla begins to act aggressive. The museum holds a press conference. Christian is resigning because of the outrage at the marketing campaign. Once again in the background, we hear the stack of chairs display vibrating and adding tension to the scene.
Vi er meget kede af alle de meget voldsomme henvendelser, meget voldsomme reaktioner, og vi er det specielt i lyset af, at denne her video er blevet offentliggjort ved en fejl. Vi har en meget klar arbejdsgang her på museet, som hedder...
Christian is really up against it here. On one side are the outrage at the campaign. They ask Christian to side with the voiceless. Solidarity, says one woman, who defends the homeless, as if Christian is responsible not just for the inappropriate advert, but part of a bigger problem.
Vad finns solidaritet med dem utan röst och mest utsatta i samhället? Jag tror du ska skämmas.
The opposite is argued. Talking about free speech, integrity and self-censorship, one journalist really lays into the hypocrisy of the whole thing.
Jamen, jeg synes, at ytringsfriheden kommer med en vis form for ansvar. Man bliver nødt til at overveje, hvad det er, man siger. Man kan ikke bare sige hvad som helst.
Tycker du inte att det är en oerhört oroväckande utveckling om du ska ägna dig åt självcensur på det här sättet? Du som i en maktposition.
Jamen, jeg kan ikke se det i selvcensur, fordi jeg er ikke den eneste, der har været med til at tage den beslutning.
Ja, men du är med och tar det här beslutet. Du har själv klart och tydligt sagt att du också tycker att klippet är så pass osmakligt så att du måste avgå.
Jeg har begået en fejl, fordi den her video er sluppet ud, uden at jeg har noget at godkende.
Där går gränsen för dig. Ett fiktivt klipp på ett barn som
Der går grænsen ikke for
mig.
mig.
Der går grænsen for dig vad det
Nej,
gäller
jeg svarer
yttrandefrihet.
som sagt ikke privat her. Jeg svarer ikke privat på nogen spørgsmål. Grænsen for museet og mig i fællesskab går her. Og bare for en del af det er det, du ikke kan forstå.
Det tycker jag är otroligt oroväckande samhällsframtid som du är med och skapar. För jävligt rent ut sagt.
Christian backtracks on his opinion that as a museum they mustn't be afraid to push boundaries. He said it was his conviction, something to stand up for. He betrays this. By trying to do what he thinks is the right thing, he still loses. Action, reaction, and so it goes. Someone has to be responsible. Something has to give. Christian is forced to resign, which is society's way of dealing with such an event. It has to be made final. It has to feel closed. I suppose we're all trying to define where that line is, what is acceptable and unacceptable, which is just like how the square is trying to define us too. The square is a sanctuary of trust and caring, which is what the world could be to an idealist. However, we know that we do not live in this world. If we all helped one another, put trust in one another, would the world be a better place? Would less people take advantage? Could we start to erode our prejudices about other societies and its people? Or is this just an idealistic viewpoint?
When do you intervene to help? Is it here or here?
Trust and caring. Putting your faith in each other, to boost them, to hold them, to not drop them. Of course, this is me once again looking for meaning in something, just like any art piece. Christian still feels guilty about disrupting the boy's life and goes to apologize in person, but by the time it comes for him to apologize, the boy and his family have moved on. We're left to think on that for a moment. Christian has to live with the guilt. The time to apologize has gone.
The moment is over. He can't find the boy.
His youngest daughter observes Christian afterwards, assessing, judging, like we do with everything. A beggar, a child, an immigrant, an art installation, a man acting like a gorilla. We do it every day. This is a world where paranoia can create fear. When you fear a place and the people you imagine living there, and the worst things that could happen to you there, or to you if they came to live near you, your instincts are survivalist, your needs your own, your perspective interior, not exterior. Is art all pretense? People want real experiences, but I suppose an art museum will never give you that. It is imagination, invention, and make-believe. Real experiences come from interacting with the real world. Being altruistic is a selfless act in the real world. Pretending to be altruistic is just another falsehood. What is art? Maybe it is just an expression of creative imagination. Or perhaps it is there to aid us question our perspectives, our tastes, and to take us out of these patterns of looking inward and to begin looking outward. Thank you.